In case you've been living under a rock, Trixie Mattel just put out her very own home tour. Thankfully, this is not an Architectural Digest video, so, Trixie, please don't sue me. I'm just trying to, like, admire your home. If you're new here, my name is Medora Kia. I use they, them pronouns, and I make videos about home design. So, let's watch.
Hi, AD, never mind, they didn't ask. Hi, it's Trixie Mattel, and this is my YouTube channel, and this is my beautiful home.
Right away. Unfortunately, this is not a live react. I couldn't resist watching it as soon as it came out, okay? Sue me, whatever.
If you've really been MIA, last year, David and I did a television program where we renovated a retro motel in Palm Springs and turned out the most incredible motel experience. And this season, my partner David and I bought a home in Hollywood, and we are putting this sucker in drag.
I love the idea of putting your home in drag. I think that's a really cute way of looking at it, especially, I mean, it makes sense for her, obviously. But it's kind of just like getting ready in the morning, right? Putting on clothes, putting on makeup. It's just like getting your home ready to present itself to the world.
This is our cute little sitting area. There's previously nothing out here, and obviously some little plants, little bench, little pillows. I can do things like talk to my mom on the phone. I can wait for my food from Uber Eats.
I love that they've made this previously unusable space more usable. And I also love that it doesn't look like they've done like a huge giant renovation. They just like added some benches and added a little like patio table with chairs to make it more functional.
This home had a lot of rain damage because of some of the uncharacteristic rains in Los Angeles. So all the way up here, the reason we have brand new little chandeliers up here is because we had to rip up the tile up there, dig it all up. If you watch the show, you know.
I didn't watch her show. I watched the first one, I watched the motel one. I didn't hear anything about the release of this other show renovating her home. Do we need a whole series about me reacting to her home renovation? Do we? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments.
We had to like reseal it, re-waterproof it. It took forever. And so much extra money.
Isn't everything so much extra money?
But now we have this nice, safe, well-lit area to sit and hang out. In addition to this little sitting area, we have this little sitting area. Ah, so nice.
The clicky clacky sound of her heels on the tiles just brings me joy.
The first day the renovation was done, I came out here and I got donuts and tea, and I sat out here and read a book, and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, this is what I needed in my life. This tiny little like cafe table, the babbling brook over there. Well, it's a fountain.
I love how she's like so excited about this little patio table and chair set. Like, it's cute, it's adorable. I love that it's not big or fancy or expensive. It's just its own little moment. Nothing special, nothing fancy. And I think she said this is one of her favorite parts of the house, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that.
Okay, so right when you walk in, you have our dining room and our living room. And I think we should look at the living room first. There's a lot to take in.
Yes, there is. There's a lot to take in. I'm already obsessed. I love this wallpaper. I am not quite sure how I'm feeling about the white ceiling right off the bat. I think a lighter green, like take the wallpaper color background, make it a little bit lighter and a little bit more yellowy. I think that could be a really interesting color for all of the crown molding and the ceiling. Because right now, the ceiling feels very short, which is fine. Like, if you like a cozy vibe, that's fine. But I think having the green on the ceiling and the crown molding would really help kind of blur the lines of where the ceiling hits and how short it is. I mean, it looks like a normal height ceiling. I think I'm just used to seeing these like 20-foot tall ceilings in celebrities' Architectural Digest shoes, so.
This room, I think, started as an ambitious idea with a lot of color and print, and it ended up being a very ambitious room with a lot of color and print. What I love about this room is I love pink, but David kind of had the idea of making it more green-centered so that it feels more grounded and like a calm living room, but the pink still really pops on green.
I think that was a fantastic idea to go for a little bit more green because I don't remember actually, I assume there's a ton of pink in the rest of the house. So yeah, green and pink are basically opposite on the color wheel. Obviously pink would be red on the color wheel, but the lighter version of red is pink. So lots of good contrast there, and pink goes good with green. If you know, you know.
We knew we wanted this pink couch from Joybird. It is huge. It is like entire groups of people can sprawl out on it. It's so comfortable. Something else I love about this room is it's a nice mix of some really high-end custom cool stuff and some really thrifty stuff. This console, it's a very expensive console.
I'm obsessed with whatever finish that is. We're gonna keep listening to see if we can figure out like what material that is or something, but like it looks like a Zlige tile, but giant. And the color application is like so, I don't know, like modeled and organic. And that is just gorgeous. That had to be custom. I haven't seen anything like that anywhere.
Very expensive. They gave us an incredible deal, but it's a giant, super heavy, custom ceramic console that's mounted to...
Oh, it is actually ceramic. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, you know, some sort of something that looks like that, because that would be so heavy and it's floating. I mean, shout out to French cleats, but like, wow. They must have a ton of studs in that wall to be able to support that.
It was like 300 pounds. It took like 4 people to lift it and mount it on the wall. And every day when I come down here, I believe that that is gonna knock the house down because it's so heavy. But right above it, we have this great television. Samsung makes this TV called the Frame, which is an 85-inch giant television.
Okay, so the Frame. I think in this specific space, because of how extra everything is, it works. In general though, just let your TV be a TV. Just like get a good console, make sure it's extra wide and extra low, mount your TV like 6 inches above it, and just let it be a TV. In most cases. I think in this case it works. I think it would look really weird to have just a black rectangle in this specific room. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Frame TV.
And we really wanted to get it for free. So we wrote Samsung, we're like, hey, can we have a free TV? And they said no, so I had to buy it. It was $4,500. $4,500.
$4,500.
That's like nothing to her. You know, I don't know exactly what her annual income is, but like, she was able to buy a house in LA. Like, $4,500 is nothing to her. Or not nothing to her, but nothing to how much she currently makes. Like, I love when rich people still have a grasp on reality and like understand that that is a ridiculous amount of money for a TV, because that is absurd.
But it has a gold frame and during the day it looks like art. I think TVs in the living room are trashy. This is a good like balance, because if David doesn't have a living room TV, he'll never come in here. But for me, I love when we're not watching the TV that it just looks like art. It's very pretty. There is a lot of custom stuff in this room. For example, these pillows, David and Dan Vickery went shopping for this fabric.
I think I actually just saw that fabric. I think it was in a different color. I think it was those exact zebras on either Cherish or First Dibs. Here, wait, hold on. Must have been First Dibs. Let's see. Well, this is a listing for a bench, not just the fabric, but this has the exact same fabric. Let me see. But yeah, that is, aside from the color, that is the exact same fabric. The exact same pattern. Cute. Love it. Okay.
And then behind me, these used to be completely normal windows. This window and that window. Issue is we live in Los Angeles. We have very close neighbors, and unless we kept the blinds closed, I would see neighbors. And I don't wear clothes. I'm often in here being embarrassing, so like...
Same, Trixie. Same.
This is a great, sneaky, but very classy way for us to get a little more privacy, but still have a lot of light coming through.
That is really genuinely a great idea. It's super classic. It fits the vibe of the home very well. It's definitely like an arts and crafts, maybe bungalow style home, from what I can tell. I'm not big on my architectural history, but from what I know. So I love that addition of a traditional stained glass. And I think I remember she said that the animals have specific meanings. So let's see.
These are by Mojo Glassworks in Virginia. If you watch season 1 of Trixie Mattel, they did all the stained glass in the rooms. They drove these all the way from the East Coast to make sure that they would not break, hand installed them. It was a real nail biter because 100-year-old homes like this, not everything is exactly square. So if they make a perfectly square window, and then they come in here and the house has shifted over the decades, it's not gonna fit. So when they were mounting it in the windows, we were like, so luckily it fits.
I love the dedication from the stained glass company. That is phenomenal. Also, I mean, they're probably being paid like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for the stained glass. But like, that's the kind of dedication you want from a professional that you're working with, is someone who will go above and beyond to make sure that you get the dedicated product that you're paying for. And yeah, that is a very good point. If you're working with an old home, you want to measure everything. Everything. You want to make sure that all of the 90-degree angles that are supposed to be 90 degrees are actually 90 degrees. You want to measure the bottom. You want to measure the top. You want to measure like in the middle. You want to measure everything, because sometimes things are just wonky, and that's just how buildings are.
It also previously was inhabited by pop songwriter Justin Tranter. He writes music for Selena Gomez, Troye Sivan, I mean, Britney, every pop person.
I didn't know that Troye Sivan was a pop singer. I didn't know who he was before his Architectural Digest video, honestly. The only context he has in my brain is his house, because his house is beautiful. I have no idea who he is outside of that. But that's fine.
Somebody was gaying it. Somebody was queering the space. And then when I came in, I was like, it's gay in here. You can tell a gay person owned this home because there was dimmers. You know what I mean? If we're being honest, straight people love overhead lighting with one setting, and gay people, we're insecure, okay? We need strategic lighting.
Or we just know how to like set a mood. That too.
David had the idea for peacocks because peacocks used to be kind of like an underground symbol for like gay stuff. And male peacocks are the ones that are all beautiful. So you have two male peacocks in this room kind of flirting. Something else I love about the peacocks is peacocks in literature often represent transformation. And this entire home was purchased on the power of transformation. So it's just fun.
I love all of the meaning and the symbolism behind the peacocks. I love that they're facing each other, and this is another thing I've noticed in specifically floral design videos. You want different elements in your home to like talk to each other and to feel like they're communicating and like having a conversation. And I just think that's so neat how they specifically put the peacocks facing each other, kind of flirting. I think that's so cute.
You'll notice that window, it has like a Trixie eye, and this window has like kind of little glasses. I mean, I don't know many people who have custom stained glass of peacocks that look like them in their house, but I'm definitely gay enough to have that. So under the TV, we have all types of books. David has really curated our books. We have books on toys. We have like old films of Elizabeth Taylor. We have Tom of Finland. If you weren't sure that gay people live here, you could look at these books and be like, I think someone gay lives here.
Okay, so I think this is a perfect example of how to make your home gay without like hanging pride flags up. You know, because, yeah, I was trying to figure out how to say this in a nice way, but don't hang pride flags in your home. It's so tacky. Like, have your pride flags, wear them to pride, whatever, sure. But like, this is how you do gay home decor, like, well.
This mirror is really cool. This is from Soho Home. This was about $5 billion. I don't remember the real price, but I remember being scandalized. It also is £1,000. The fact that it has not torn the wall off, like, I don't know. It's a really cool mirror though. I really love it. I wasn't initially fond of it because I thought the squiggles were too trendy, but now I like it, so.
The squiggles definitely are trendy, but I think there are so many good examples dating back hundreds and even thousands of years showing squiggles as part of design. So is it trending right now? Yes. Is it also kind of timeless in its own way? Also yes.
I have learned in this process to trust the process. There was so many times where I was flipping out, and then by the next day, whatever I was flipping out about, I was like, oh, that looks kind of good.
That is so true. Home design very much is a process. Even if you have the money to like put it all together so it's all nice and like finished for a video like this, or if you're just a regular person who's trying to like have a home that isn't gross, it's a process either way, and you really just have to trust the process.
And then this whole giant rug in the living room, this is a custom rug from Tuft the World. If you guys watched Trixie Mattel season 1, we had a tufting artist named Tim, and he worked on a mirror with Nicole Byer and I. This season, off camera, he built this entire area rug, like custom. So if you imagine him with a gun, like doing every single loop in this, it probably drove him insane. He probably went out of his mind, but Tim, if you're watching this, we love it, and it's so beautiful, and it's perfect.
I will say, I think the rug is one of those things that, on its own, I kind of hate the design. Hi, buddy. Mwah. Oh, big stretch. Oh, big stretch. Oh, mwah. This is no shade to Tim. I think it works perfectly in the space. It's just not something that I would put in my personal home because it's not my personal aesthetic. It looks very high quality, it looks very lush and luxe, and I guess props to Trixie for being able to like afford a giant custom rug because that could not have been cheap. I also love how Trixie is shouting out the companies and the people who worked on her home, and she is clearly in like so much awe of these people and the work that they do, and I just love that so much as opposed to some of the celebrities that we've seen who don't shout out like the artists or anything, and they're just like, yeah, this is normal. I'm like, no. No, it's not.
And the wallpaper that really creates this room, I mean, it really sets the scene for this room. This wallpaper is from Thibaut. My initial thought was pink, and I'm so happy we did green because it weirdly makes the pink in this room work better. In season 1, we had a designer who was amazing, but for this season, we wanted something a little more domestic.
I love the subtle shade thrown at Danny something or other, who is the designer for the Trixie Mattel. And I don't think it's the actual shade. I think she did a phenomenal job designing specifically for the Trixie Mattel. Not my personal taste, not how I would have designed it, but I think that she took her style and melded it with the Trixie Mattel perfectly. And she does have this style throughout her own home too. But yeah, that style is not what most people think of when they think of a domestic interior design style.
So this season, our designer Dan Vickery, David and Dan Vickery and I really just like toss the ball around. He had kind of a grounded approach on how to make something beautiful, and our approach is how to make something insane. So I think we always were trying to meet in the middle. Like, what's the most glamorous we can make it without being completely batshit? So it was like a good push and pull at all times of like, I want crazy, but don't you want good looking? Yes, but I also want crazy. It was like,
I love that though. Sometimes you need to find a designer who is not your style so that you can like kind of complement each other and round each other out and create a more well-rounded space.
and this is the dining room. This is probably my favorite room in the house, but it's also the room that gave me a heart attack on several occasions. Let me explain.
Okay, first impressions. It looks like they kept the original tile in the fireplace, which I love. I feel like they might have taken the pink and the green like slightly too far in here. It's interesting because I think the chandelier works really well in the home, but it doesn't really feel like a statement light. It kind of just like blends into the background, which I feel like with the dining room, I would expect a little bit more of a statement light with Trixie specifically.
When this table came, this beautiful table, this was supposed to be like a deep jade. When it came in, it was this like aqua.
The aqua is fine, but yeah, I think that's what's throwing me off. It's very like minty, and I think the deeper jade color would have really helped like ground the whole space.
My heart stopped. I mean, it was the day of the dinner party and the wrong color table. It was a custom painted table. When you request a custom painted item, it should be the color you wanted. So it was really disorienting, but this room has so much cool stuff. It has the gold wallpaper ceiling, which is amazing.
I do kind of love how they kept it though, instead of just like sending it back and being like, no, we can't accept this because it's the wrong color. And I mean, you can always repaint things. I'm sure with this high gloss of a finish, you need to be very particular about how you paint it, but still, like it's just paint. I don't know.
It has this vintage pink Murano glass sculptural light fixture here that I love.
Okay, it's not reading very well on camera, but the glass chandelier is pink. So I think that helps a little bit. And I do love the gold leaf on the ceiling. Okay, tangent. Once I photographed a party at a rich person's house. I used to do photography, so natural progression into video. But I photographed a party at some like rich person's, well, house. It was a mansion. It wasn't a giant mansion, but it was a very nice mansion. And so I photographed this party. It was thrown for the Guinness Brothers, not the band, but the like people who are Irish and do the beer. I don't know. So anyways, the powder bath that was right inside the main entrance, when you walked inside, everything was covered in silver leaf. The walls, the ceiling, like it was just such a neat like sensory experience to walk in there and be surrounded by shiny. And it makes me think of this.
This room has plates, saucers, chargers, all from Le Double J. I think it's like a fashion brand, but they also make really cool plates. I asked them for free ones and they said this wouldn't be a good brand match. Sounds coded to me. And then over there on the mantle, we have some great Jonathan Adler pieces. We have this weird little baby doll head. I don't remember where I got that, but I'm very happy David let me keep in the house because it is weird.
You'll always need at least one weird thing in your home. I don't make the rules.
Something unique to this house is it has a Batchelder fireplace. Batchelder was a very famous tile maker and like an American craftsman. And if you watch the show, you know. We smashed it because we thought we were gonna change it and then we felt bad, so we fixed it. Luckily, you would never know unless you watched a television show where we told everyone we smashed it, so great. This house kind of has like style dysphoria. Like, it's technically a craftsman, but the front yard is kind of like a French provincial situation, but we've done it kind of Hollywood Regency. So it really is all styles kind of meshing together, which is ambitious, but I think we pulled it off.
I think the key to great design is mixing a bunch of styles together. So you're good, Trixie.
It kind of made the design process interesting because each room had things we wanted to keep. The molding, or the beautiful wood in the doorways, or the fireplace, or each room had something that we were like, this is old and cool enough, let's not change it. And then I have these great salt and pepper shakers. David's mom got me these for Christmas a few years ago, and they look like little birds, and I'm obsessed with them. And I'm so happy they work in the dining room because I think they're so cute.
One thing I do love is looking on Etsy or eBay or wherever for weird vintage salt and pepper shakers. This is especially great for renters because like sometimes you really either can't do a lot to your space or you're just like not trying to spend a lot of money. It can be a pop of color, it's something fun that you interact with, and it can really bring a lot more style to an otherwise relatively bland space.
The joy in my heart from this is so disproportionate to what a salt shaker should bring a person. Behind me, I have this portrait. This is by my friend Kim. at Carlos Bob on Instagram. She actually did the portrait of me at the motel. She's a very famous portrait artist in Australia. And she painted this giant painting of David and I. We sent her the colors to the living room. We were basically like, can you make this so it matches our dining room and our living room? So you can see she definitely painted us, but she incorporated in like the rose and the aqua and the teal. And that's why it really marries this whole room. This portrait was painted for us for this room, which is why it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Okay, that is amazing. And sometimes having things be so custom to your space kind of, I mean, obviously once you've bought a house, that's usually kind of like where you're settling down. But if you're moving around a lot, you honestly don't want your things to be super custom. You want all of your things to kind of like fit together generally, but they could be used in either the living room or the dining room or a bedroom or an office. Like, you really want that versatility, especially when you're renting and moving around a lot.
This season was intense because it's our real home. If we make mistakes, we have to live with them, literally. And we have the whole world watching and telling us what they do and don't like about our home. So, you know, the stakes felt definitely higher this time.
Hi, Trixie. Just another person telling you what I do and don't like about your home.
Now, we don't have butlers in this house, but at some point somebody did because we have a butler's pantry. So let's go to the butler's pantry. So now we're in the butler's pantry. Again, we don't have a butler. I don't know what you would call it. Some people probably use this as a sunroom. You could make it into a little library. We chose to do kind of like a observatory, plant room, little writing desk. Honestly, my first thought was all this natural light, what a good place to do Zoom meetings, because these French doors do close, so you have a little bit of privacy, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here. So if you watch the show, you know, we painted these cages gold, pink. Again, I love birds, but we don't have birds. So this sort of bird cage motif is kind of throughout the house. All these candles are super plant smelling. So for this room, when you walk in and there's all these plants, some of them are fake. You get this like plant smell on your face and it just makes the whole room feel so fresh.
I'm not the biggest fan of this room within the context of the rest of her home. In general, I do love the more like traditional craftsman vibes of this room. I love the tiled counter, I love the cabinetry and all of the woodwork, but this really just kind of feels like an afterthought in comparison to the rest of her home. Obviously, all real plants would be better. I don't love the look of the fake plants. For me, for her specific space, I think she could get away with all fake plants, specifically because she's a drag queen and specifically because camp is very much her thing. It feels like they didn't go all out enough with this room. Like, I feel like there should be, if they're gonna do all sorts of plants and stuff, they should do vines on the walls. But I feel like they just should have gone so much more all out with this whole space. So yeah, again, feels like an afterthought.
But what I like about this room is it basically ends up giving the dining room some dimension. So at night when we're having dinner, having guests over, we can have plants and candles in here and it just gives some more depth to the dining room experience.
I do love that point. I think that depth and dimension and anything that can convey those types of experiences is always a good thing. What are you doing?
But we can't have a dining room without a kitchen, so let's go look at where we make food. Welcome to the kitchen. So this kitchen, when we started it, it was like, we love pink, I love pink, David loves pink, and it was like, we don't want to do all pink. Cut to 5 seconds later, everything is pink. I think it was like a slippery slope. Once one thing was pink, it was like, well, let's do a little more, and then here we are. We're in like, you know, a kitchen made by the people who make pink like school erasers. That's kind of this kitchen.
I love that. I think that really ties in with her earlier point about trust the process. Sometimes you just have to like see what's out there and work from that and then see what feels right. And sometimes you end up with something completely different than what you thought you were going in with, but it's also like 10 times better than you thought it was going to be. I will say I'm obsessed with the rose quartz countertops, like visually. And that is definitely an investment and probably not the greatest thing for the environment. It is gorgeous though.
This countertop I'm sitting on, which I probably shouldn't be sitting on, is rose quartz. We had to get 3 slabs of it, and they retail at about $20,000 a slab. So these were very expensive, very fancy. We went to Stoneman here in Los Angeles on the show, and our friend Golly gave us a tour. And when we saw these in person, real stones like this, the way they pick up light and have uniqueness, and it's amazing. Everyone who enters this kitchen, the first thing they do is touch it. They like have to touch it. It's so cool.
That is absolutely the first thing that I would do also. I would be like, oh my gosh, let me get my grubby little hands all over this. It is gorgeous. I love the Zalige tile on the floor. I love the pattern and the border. Very classic. The one thing I'm not loving in the kitchen is the lights. Maybe it's just how they're reading on camera. They look like a very cool toned light or like daylight, which I don't love. And it also, at least from this angle, the ceiling feels very empty because they're like glass or crystal lights. And there really isn't much going on. And like the rest of the entire kitchen is just like a baby pink. And so I'd love to have a little bit more like contrast in there.
The floor is all handmade tiles, so even though it's a very uniform design, the way it ended up looking super custom is we have this super uniform strict design, but it's handmade tiles, so they're all a little different. So that's what gives it that very hand-laid custom look. The tile workers in here were on their hands and knees making it perfect. It was incredible to watch. People who do tile are truly artists. Anybody in your life who does tile, they're very cool people, let me tell you.
Again, I just want to shout out her appreciation for artists and people who like really have honed their craft very well.
We added frosting to the windows in here because I'm gonna be honest with you guys. In renovation television, sometimes you don't get everything, okay? It's like the final day of the kitchen and we forgot to paint the shelves. So in a last minute dash, we had to frost this, and then Dave and I were like, I kind of like it frosted, because to be honest, now there's not the pressure of keeping it all perfect in there, so who cares?
I do love that. I think sometimes you just need a space where you can throw stuff and it doesn't have to like be neat and organized, and you can just not worry about it.
My condo before I lived there was renovated, but it was renovated before I moved in. So I lived in my apartment just complaining about how long the reno was taking, which is different than living in the middle of the reno. I mean, we lived in the guest house, which was such a blessing to have a guest house. But you know, every day we'd walk in, there would be people here sawing and hammering and stripping paint at like 7 in the morning. So every day it was like living in a renovation. We replaced the sink. It used to be a 2-basin sink, and now it's this giant farmhouse sink with hot and cold running water. It has one of those, this things. It's a very cool sink. It has a push button disposal.
I'm just amused by how she said hot and cold running water, one of these things like the sprayers. Although I will say, after not having running water for a year, and especially not hot running water, having both hot and cold running water, major luxury.
Love these crystal poles. I mean, it's funny that 2 men live here because we're not exactly fragile about everyone thinking we're mask for mask. This kitchen is insane. I mean, it is the pinkest, girliest experience.
Gay men are really out here doing the Lord's work, proving that cis men do not need to be butch and macho and like, you know, just.
So the appliances in this room were all big chill. The fridge, the dishwasher, and the stove. An oven, and instead of getting new appliances, we actually enameled them pink. So these are the exact same appliances. So I'm so happy we could keep them because they were in amazing condition.
I am obsessed with the appliances. They're definitely very extra, but I would expect nothing less for Trixie. That's a really neat idea. I don't know how accessible the price point of that is for like the average person, but that is a really fantastic idea if you already have appliances that work perfectly fine to just like redo the outside.
So I'm so happy we could keep them because they were in amazing condition. They just used to be like a yellow and they would have looked so odd in this pink kitchen. So I'm so happy we just got to paint them. I have to show you guys this. They make the coolest pink options. So cool. And it's nice because I can leave something like this sitting out on the counter, and instead of looking like clutter, it just like goes with the whole vibe of the kitchen.
That is one thing I love about slowly over the course of like your entire life, sourcing things that are functional things to have in your home that are also beautiful, so that if it is laying out, it doesn't look like clutter. And when you use it, it just like makes you so happy. You're like, ooh. Especially, I really love like, this is gonna sound weird, but I have an antique screwdriver with a wooden handle, and it's just so pleasant to use. Like it fits the shape of my hand perfectly, and it's so beautiful, and I love using it. So yeah, this is probably, you know, something that all of you know, but like just getting things that are pretty and make you happy is definitely like one of my top interior design tips.
One of my other favorite things about the kitchen is that it's connected to the music room / the bar. So let's go in there, shall we? This is the bar. Now it is a bar, but it's also my little music room. So for this room, it was important to me that if I was home, I could use it to play guitar, play my harp, write music. I can put my DJ equipment right up here on the bar and with my computer and work on DJ sets for touring. But if I'm not here, or if we're not using it for a music room, this room is a very convincing little lounge to have your friends over and drink. So this room looks like a bar, but it also functions like a little workspace, which is exactly what I wanted.
I love the slightly different color scheme in here. I love the darker teal. I love that it feels a little bit more moody and cozy, and honestly, it doesn't even look like a very big room. So I love how they've kind of merged 2 functions into one.
This is a fun story. My drummer Price, we were on tour and I did not know that Price is colorblind.
Okay. I'm back. Just some, you know, casual dog bile throw up, but that's fine.
I got a radio gig or something where we had to get little instruments to...
Oh, buddy. You wanna go outside again? Here, let's go outside again. Just gotta clean up some dog diarrhea. 1 second. Oh. Okay, I'm back. No more dog diarrhea. And not to be like too graphic, but it was that type where like, it's like goopy, like jelly. Never mind.
So this is my Gibson Doves in Flight. So cool. This guitar I bought after my first record. My first record cost me $20,000. I wrote all the music, sang it, played on it. I even like made the costumes on the cover with like hot glue. But when the album made its money back, this was my gift to myself, was these like this guitar. And I didn't play it for years because it's too fancy. But then one day I was like, what's the point of owning it if you're not going to use it? So now I play it all the time. It's so nice.
I do love that point. Sometimes it's tempting to get things that feel fancy compared to what you're used to, but then it's also tempting to just shove it away, never look at it, never actually like touch it because you're so scared of ruining it. But if you've been looking for permission to use your fancy things, here's your permission.
You'll notice this room doesn't have a lot of art on the walls, nor does it have mirrors. When you're filming a TV show, mirrors reflect cameras, which is why you guys are this way and not right here right now, or you would see yourself in the mirror. And when you have art on TV, you have to get the artist to clear it. So like the portrait in the dining room, we know the artist. We told her it was for TV. A lot of our art that we have, David's been collecting like retro vintage portraits. We don't know the artist and we don't know how to find them. So as this room matures, I think we will probably, you know, coat the walls in really cool, weird art. I think doing a lot of portraits could give it like a heritage speakeasy vibe because we have all these fabulous bottles. I mean, this is so nice to have. It makes you feel so fancy. You know, when you're in college and you're taking a shot and then like a Gatorade and just swishing it in your mouth, that's not exactly mixology. Entering the adult stage of your life and having to pull like nice vodka, pour it in a nice tumbler, it's really nice. These little doors up there, I don't know if you saw it on the show, but those little doors reveal little portraits because we don't have a lot of family portraits and I think we're both uncomfortable with photos of ourselves. I'll show you. Like this one. This is a photo of David and I at Berlin. If anybody's been to Berlin in Chicago, the gay bar, they have a photo booth. This is a picture from a photo booth. So it's pictures of us in the home without being too live, laugh, love.
I really love that idea because yeah, I feel like having like a printed photo of like a wedding photo or an engagement photo or just like a family photo in general, it's not always the vibe. You can make it the vibe, but it's not always the vibe. So I love this idea of like having some cute little like interactive moment where you get to still have the photos, but they're not quite out on display.
And then I also have to show you, I love these tumblers from Jonathan Adler. So cool, right? Extremely overpriced. Jonathan, you know that's the T-bitch, but those are really nice glasses.
I mean, isn't all home decor at this point pretty overpriced? But
So now that we've finished the music room, we have our double doors here that lead out to the backyard. Let's go. Welcome to the backyard. So now we're in the backyard, which is like...
I'm obsessed with the disco ball. I think that is perfect for her vibe. And yeah, I think she mentions this again a little bit later, but if you are going to have a disco ball, you have to have it rotating. Otherwise, it just looks dumb.
We could not find a disco ball big enough or pink enough, so we built that disco ball from scratch using a yoga ball, epoxy, and tiny mirrors.
Do I need to try that DIY? Because that sounds like fun. It also kind of sounds like headache, but...
I think it was worth it. And we put it on a rotator, so if you ever hang a disco ball in your house, unless you make it spin, it looks terrible. The spinning is what makes it look good. You can get a cheap disco ball, but you have to make it spin. We also have this huge mural by James Mobley, which is so cool. It just takes the jungle of the backyard and wraps it into the house. I love it. And what this backyard really needed was its own bar. So let's go look. This is the silver bar. Well, thank you for asking. Yeah, we call it the silver bar because David loves a cocktail and David loves gold and he loves animal print. So we have a lot of this gold detailing going on back here. And then there's this animal print tile bar.
I get that it's funny. I get that it's like the gold and silver play on words kind of like unexpected thing going on. But I have never liked the style of mirror. Anything with like a sunburst like that, and especially when it's like a lot of them all together, gallery wall style, but like not even really close enough to each other. Not loving the vibes of this. But I get that it's like a fun moment and like a play on words.
David built this bar with the designer Dan Vickery. They built it from scratch. And I'm just thinking of summer and the way we're gonna spend time here. And I know David and his friends will be having a glass of wine over here. So the Silver Bar, I mean, when we opened the Trixie Motel, I always had a dream that if we open another location, we would have a speakeasy, like a very small room in the back that would be called the Silver Bar, where everything floor to ceiling would be gold. I don't know, I think that's funny to me because David Silver loves gold, so Silver Bar of gold. Comedy, you know, branding, it matters.
It is funny, I will give them that. I just wish that they had at least gone all out and gotten even more of these mirrors and gone all the way up to the ceiling and all the way down to the floor and spaced them much closer together. Because right now it's kind of just like your mom's gallery wall as opposed to art installation.
This, when we bought the home, was really like a area of opportunity. Like, it has a rigged heater back here. So I know someone at some point spent time back here, but it was just plain cedar, and I was like, we can do sexier than that. We can do better than that. So the lighting, the mirrors, this whole area now is like, it's like its own little thing.
I wish she had just kept the cedar. Like, I think the color is fine, but that kind of pains me that it was cedar back here and they painted it.
So now that you've seen the first level of the home and the exterior here in the back, I think we should go upstairs, shall we? Drag queens love stairs. The stairs. Now in the home, the stairwell, where the stairs are, the stair area, the staria as we call it, is a very overlooked area to make some design choices. But for us, in this beautiful old spooky home, I was like, let's do something really cool. I think originally David had the idea for like a sky, and then we were like, maybe a pink sky. Once we got this wallpaper, this was a hard installation because this is wallpaper on 2 levels. So most wallpaper is made for, you know, floor to ceiling, 1 room. This wallpaper design had to be doubled in height and scale and then installed vertically so that everything lines up perfectly. It was a very slow process. I remember watching them on a scaffolding, like boards from here to here, up crawling on the ceiling. Like, it was a whole deal. Because we also have gold wallpaper on the ceiling in here. So it's giant wallpapers, wallpaper on the ceiling, and these beautiful like gemstone light fixtures.
I personally would hesitate to call those lights beautiful. Don't love them. Don't love the fake gold. Don't love the fake gems. I think there are so many more interesting ways of lighting a space than whatever that is. I also really don't like that there was like a matching sconce on the wall, like a matching one of these dangling. Did not like that. It's giving like matching living room furniture set, which I'm not a fan of. But I get the vibes. The wallpaper is neat. I'll give them that. It's definitely a moment.
Now, when we picked these out, it was between this or something kind of big and cloudy. This ended up being a surprise hit because if you guys can see, these lights shatter onto the walls. So especially at night, when you're walking through here and the lights are all low because everything's on dimmers, you have the clouds and this very light, like rainbow shatter effect on the walls. It is so beautiful in here. This ended up being like the sleeper hit of the renovation. Like, every time people climb the stairs, you're going toward our bedroom, our closet, our guest bedroom, and it feels like you're kind of going up to a calmer, more heavenly area of the house.
That is fair. I think the experience of seeing all of the different like fractals of light on the walls could be cool. I just don't love these particular light fixtures aesthetically.
Now, I don't want to trigger any LGBTQIA people, but let's go back in the closet. Welcome to my closet. This is technically the primary bedroom, which is really interesting because it is the smallest room in the house. We didn't want to do anything where we turned it to a closet, but completely ruined the room because the resale value on a house is higher if you have more bedrooms. So basically in this room, all we did was add furniture. I mean, you know, we have mirrors on the walls, you know, they swing out like a tailor's mirror so you can see all the way around yourself. These are great because they just add like closet space without screwing into the wall, anything like that. They're basically units you could carry out here at some point.
I do love that. Even if you own your own home, I think it's smart to think about renter-friendly ways of doing things because what if you want to change things out in the future? You never know.
David found this desk. I don't know where he found it, but I love this desk. I sit in here and do Zoom meetings. I sit in here and put makeup on. Lots of stuff in here. This is David's Alfred Hitchcock candle. I don't know why we've never burned it. I guess this is one of those decorative candles that you don't ever burn, which I don't know. It's like having decorative food you don't eat. I don't really understand that, but whatever. This slab of rose quartz is actually the same rose quartz from the countertops downstairs because when you have slabs that big and that expensive, we had one slab turned into a cheese board and then one slab was turned into a little like platform here. We used the whole animal, that's for sure.
Yes, I do appreciate that if you're going to do something that big, like specifically thinking about countertops. They're super expensive, they're super resource intensive, and so you might as well use all of it and get your money's worth.
I'm gonna be honest with you, this poof, this carpet in the middle, very affordable. I just wanted somewhere in here to sit, to put on shoes. That photo over there is the first day of renovating the motel. David and I took that picture, so it's a very cool picture. The director of photography for Trixie Mattel is also a photographer, and he took that picture on real film, so it's great to have it framed. It's like very blast from the past. I remember that day, how scared I was to start renovating, and look at me now.
I do love a much more personalized art/photograph moment, especially if it's something where you have a very specific memory. And of course, as long as you frame it well and all of that. Big fan.
We loved this wallpaper, so we didn't want to change much in here. I love the hardwood floor and I love the wallpaper. We swapped out the fixtures and added furniture, but basically we didn't really believe in renovating for the sake of it. This room, we liked the wallpaper, so we just added to it.
I think that's really smart. I do love the wallpaper. And I think there is so much of a culture, especially, not to name names, but cough, cough, HGTV, cough, cough. There is such a culture of renovating for the sake of renovating. Like, they take perfectly usable homes and just completely gut it, completely swap out everything that's new, and that's just not sustainable and not realistic for most people.
Everything I've learned about renovation, I think back to my worst apartments where I had the smallest budget and the worst apartment, and I felt so like I couldn't do anything about it. Why in my 20s was I not swapping out light fixtures, painting walls, thrifting, and I had so much more control. Like, if I had known what I know now, I would have had cooler apartments when I was younger.
That is so true. Swapping out light fixtures is really, really not that hard. Thrifting, depending on what you're looking for, can definitely require a little bit more access to resources in terms of having transportation to transport big things and having friends who can help you move big pieces of furniture. But things are more doable than you think they are. I know sometimes when we see these perfectly curated homes, it can be really easy to get in the trap of oh, I need to have money. And no, you don't always need to have money. You do need to have some type of resources. But it doesn't have to be money.
There's so many things I've learned in home decor stuff and renovating that is doable by you and not $1 billion. So let's go check out the bedroom. Ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Honestly, I think this is my least favorite room in the entire house. I assume they were just trying to go more calm and casual and not be quite as in your face because after all, it is a bedroom and you need to sleep in there. But it's just so underwhelming, and it feels very flat to me. It feels like there's not a lot of dimension. I would love for there to be a plant in that back corner. I would love for the curtains to be a heavier fabric, much more structured, pleated. And for the fabrics, all of the fabrics just feel so flat. And when the wall color is already so flat, I really just want some more texture going on in there.
This is where all the magic happens. Not sex, no, we actually do close-up magic in here. I'm getting really good at pulling a nickel out of people's ears. No, this is our bedroom. So this room compared to the rest of the house, if you think our vibe, this is an old Craftsman and we were reaching for sexy, gay Hollywood Regency, fun textures and colors and prints and animal prints.
Yeah, see, I'm not getting any sort of fun textures and prints and colors and anything in that. I think the ceiling light definitely helps with the texture issue that I was talking about. But also, if you look at that bench underneath the windows, that just feels like some sort of cheap mass manufactured type of, I don't know. I don't like it.
This room ended up being a little more purposely spa.
I get that it's trying to be more calm and spa, but I think it could have just been done so much better.
We love this bed. This bed is from Soho Home. It was, I'm not kidding, $5 million.
Okay, this view is a little bit better. I think that dresser situation thingy helps a lot with the texture issue also. It's just, I don't know. It's not doing it for me.
I couldn't believe how much the bed was. It's just how much things cost are so crazy to me sometimes. I just can't believe it. And my old friend Becca, she was a mattress saleswoman and she used to tell people, you spend a third of your life in bed. And she's right. So get the bed you want. This actually is not a dresser. These are 3 side tables stuck together. Get creative, people. Okay, get creative.
I do love the idea of getting creative, and I don't love all 3 of those dressers together. I think there are so many much better options for big dressers that maybe that wasn't a necessary choice.
And we built out the wall. This used to be the wall, right? It was green, or it was wallpaper and it was all this deep. The wall was built out so that the bed looks more recessed for that kind of hotel feel where the walls kind of hug you.
I do like that they made this a little bit more of an architectural moment, because any chance that you can get a little bit more of an architectural moment, big fan of.
And one of my favorite things we did in this bedroom is we really made it an indoor-outdoor experience because we really pimped out this patio. Come on.
Okay, before we get into the patio, I love the white porcelain knob on the door that goes out to the patio. That I love.
And this, finally, is our little daybed patio situation. So, I mean, the main bedroom's right here, and then this patio, I've never had a bedroom with a patio. I was like, well, let's figure out something to do out here. So we had to tear up all this tile, we had to re-waterproof it, fix all the water damage, and then since we tore up the tile, we did this new black and white graphic tile, which I love. And then we wanted to do a daybed, but this is Los Angeles, there's an apartment building next door, and it's a straight guy who lives there with 0 window treatments. So he's always looking over here. So the designer, Dan Vickery, had the idea to do kind of a canopy. He built the canopy in the same color as the trim of the house and built it high enough to go over the window. So when you're in the house, you don't get any blocked coverage. So cool.
I love the canopy idea. Very practical, also cute. It really is bugging me though that the color of the canopy, of the wood, of the trim of the rest of the house is not matching with the color of that like wicker daybed. I wish the wicker daybed was a much darker color, but what can I do?
And every morning when I wake up, I come out here and play on my phone, and like Dave and I order coffee and sit out here and like greet the day. It's like quiet in Los Angeles in the morning. The sun is kind of coming in over the east. It's so nice. And that's basically my house. I have never owned a freestanding house. I really love it. It's a lot of challenges, like, you know, everything's always breaking and it's my problem now. No landlord comes to rescue me.
That is true. That is one thing that you will learn as soon as you have your own space that you are responsible for. Everything is your problem now, which can be frustrating and overwhelming. And I haven't owned a house like this, but I have owned an RV. And let me tell you, things will go wrong, things will break, you'll want to fix things or change things, and you can do that. And it really at least gave me a much bigger sense of responsibility and pride in my space.
I love the house. I love showing it to y'all, and please don't kill me. Bye.
If you want to help support this channel, I think I've successfully set up the membership join thing here on YouTube, so go check that out. I don't know how that works, but if that isn't working, I do also have a Patreon where there is a general support tier and 2 more tiers where you can get live one-on-one design sessions with me. So if you're interested in any of that, go to patreon.com/medorakia.